Kamala just bought an $8 million Barbie Malibu dream house. Here are the highlights. Indoor-outdoor living, a spa bathroom with soaking tub, built-in speakers everywhere, perfect for Doug's spin class. Backyard gets even better. Full kitchen, private putting green, and of course, a big, beautiful fire pit. Because Malibu definitely needs more fires. It's been burnt to a crisp thanks to Democrats, but not Kamala's new neighborhood. It's untouched. Nice going. So Kamala squandered $2 billion in donor money, didn't win a single state, made the DNC pay off her debt, wrote a gossip book and blamed everyone else for her losing, and then splurged $8 million on a Malibu mansion. Not a great look.
Well, let's go international now. The US is pulling out military personnel from that giant airbase in Qatar. US President Donald Trump says he will take, quote, very strong action against Iran if its regime continues violence against their own people. I mean, executions and murders. This is what some of the president had to say earlier today.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions.
Does this mean military action is now off the table against Iran?
No, we're going to watch it and see what the process is, but we were given a very good statement by people that are aware of what's going on.
Let's go to Deakin University Islamic Politics Professor Greg Barton. Good to see you again, Greg. The situation there seems to have changed pretty rapidly during the day. I mean, we woke up this morning with the concept that, you know, those pulling out of that airbase meant that perhaps the US was going to go into Iran. That seems to have just been something to do out of safety. What do you think President Trump does next?
Well, Steve, his pattern these last 12 months is sort of quick, decisive actions that are sort of largely air-based, so no boots on the ground, something quick in and out. Of course, Venezuela was exceptional in its planning and execution. That did have a small number of personnel on the ground. What we do know with Iran is that it's deeply, the security apparatus is deeply penetrated by Israeli intelligence. So, you know, possibly if President Trump is persuaded by Prime Minister Netanyahu that there are certain things that they could usefully do, that might be enough to tip him in that direction. But the key point here for the people of Iran is what happens with the Iranian military. As distinct from the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the standard military is much less ideological and religious. If they flip, then the regime falls. If they don't flip, then it's hard to see the regime falling. And from everything that President Trump has said, he wants to see this regime end. So if he can see a pathway of action that will bring the military out to side against, the Revolutionary Guards Corps, the zealots who run the country, you know, possibly we might see action. I think President Trump wants to be seen as a man of action, so it seems unlikely he's going to do nothing.
Well, you mentioned Israel. I mean, we saw last year Israel managed to take out, you know, leaders of Hamas that were in Iran, and there was that extraordinary assassination of one of their leaders where I think they blew it up with a telephone or some device that had been planted in his room. The Israelis would presumably be used by the Americans in a joint effort if they go in there to take that regime down.
Well, I think that's right, Steve. It's a question, of course, of who's using who and sort of whether there's a strategic vision beyond the tactical brilliance that both Israel and America have displayed over the last 12 months. That strategic piece is key. And as I said, it really depends on whether there's a course of action that could be executed that would bring the army out against the regime, against the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and lead for a pathway to change. We've seen unprecedented protests and an unprecedented loss of life. I mean, this is perhaps the biggest loss of life in protests since this revolutionary state was formed in 1979. It's a remarkable situation. But most analysts say that for there to be change now, it's going to depend on the army. So what Israel and America does, it could exacerbate the forces of ultranationalism that means that the army gets behind the regime, or it could see a cleavage between the ideological regime of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps and the army coming out on the side of the people. No signs of that yet, I must say, but I mean, that's the thing to watch for.
How capable is the Iranian military to strike back if America does do something?
Well, we sort of put this to the test in the middle of last year, didn't we, Steve? I mean, it turns out that they're very compromised by Israeli intelligence. Their air defense systems are very poor. When they launched a barrage of missiles at Israel, at the beginning of the year, they gave warning, so that wasn't a fair test. But in the middle of the year, when they're under serious pressure in that 12-day war, very few of the Iranian missiles and drones got through. So I think they're really in a low point. They're at their weakest point ever. I'm sure that many in Israel, in the Israeli administration, making this point in Washington, saying now's the time to strike and to do something. The question is whether they do something which makes things better, or whether they actually inadvertently contribute to a sort of rally around the flag effect that actually strengthens a weak regime.
Greg Barton, always good to see you. Thanks for helping us out tonight. And interestingly, of course, the Iranians are absolute geniuses at putting out their own propaganda. We've seen vision all day long of funerals of so-called dead Iranian soldiers, but we haven't seen too much of what's happened to the public.